All right, let's get into it. So I'm coming up at the end of a 28-day streak. For me, that's one cycle. Now, to put this in perspective, one cycle to a sacral being or solar being, which is pretty much anyone that's not a reflector, is one day. That's one cycle. For me, one cycle is 28 days, which I've learned means that if I want to know the value of something in my life, I have to experience it over the course of that one cycle, that 28 days. For some people, they only need a day with it. Me, I really only need nothing. I want 28 days with it. My energy, my mechanics are demanding, and in a way, it is a need, which I'm a little caught up on the whole needs thing, especially as it pertains to relationship. This is a total tangent. However, I think it's important and it plays a role here and everything that I'm doing with human design. The vocabulary is very particular. Needs are, for instance, your car needs fuel to run. It doesn't have to look nice, it doesn't have to look pretty, it doesn't have to be respected, or it doesn't have to be catered to. As long as there's fuel, that's the need. The need is the fuel. The need is for the spark plugs to do what they do, for the timing belt to do what it does. Needs are something that are actually necessary for something to go on. Anything other than that, for instance, I want you to respect me. I want you to communicate more. I want you to unfollow this person. I want you to stop talking to that person. Those are desires. Those are not needs. So, cycling back to me saying as a reflector that I need 28 days, I'm speaking to my mechanics. This isn't about me feeling good about it. This is about me having an actual opportunity to work with something. So I'm coming up on the end of a 28-day period of sharing the human design strategies on Instagram. Every single day, I'm waking up in the morning and I am just going in. Reflectors, watch the moon, projectors, wait for the invitation, generators, respond with your gut. Manifesting generators, do the same thing. Manifestors, inform people. And it's been this journey for me to watch myself do this thing for 28 days and realize that I think it's worth doing. And let me tell you why. The reason repeating something for 28 days is relevant, especially in today's world, is because when it comes to living your human design, which is something that I believe will be more natural, you'll have more energy to do it, you'll enjoy it more, other people will receive you better, life will just be better. Not to get into like polarity land, but like life will just be better if you're living your human design. Why? Because those are your actual needs. That's the fuel for your tank. That's the steering wheel for direction is strategy and authority. And so those are the two main things that very right out the gates, you could know nothing about your chart, you could know nothing about human design, but if you have a strategy and authority, that's your map and your compass when it comes to everyday experiences, interacting every in the moment. And that's something that I love about human design is that it's a simple, like straightforward, this is how it is. Not like, oh, here are the 16,000 different attributes about your astrology that will have you in line with your highest and best self. No, this is just like, how do I process energy in the everyday moments? Because human design is not about knowing everything. I'm not doing this because I want to know everything about human design or I want other people to know everything about human design. I'm doing this because it's important that everybody be living the way that they were born, not the way that society told them to. And right now society's got this twisted way of phrase giving you that of just be how you were born and yet impacting you with so much societal pressure, not giving you any room or any space to be yourself. It's like, oh, this is who you got to be, especially in the terms of who's included, who's not included, feelings, a bunch of bullshit, if you ask me, because at the end of the day, if you are not able to live on your own terms with your own strategy, like nothing else matters. You're just not a valid human in the world. You're actually a non-player character. You're being controlled by a greater system. Now, human design is pointing to the greater system of nature. And this is really the only system that I absolutely honor. Now, society has systems built within that, which to a degree I honor. But the system that actually controls it, some people call it God, other people have called it the Roman Catholic Church and put a label on it. Other people have called it uh, Muslim, whatever it is, religions. They're all looking at nature for the answers. And human design is a system that to me has taken the most scientific of practices in terms of astrology and the I Ching because these are observations of nature. Okay, these are not oh, I had a vision and the Lord said to me, A, B, and C, now give me 10% of your money for tithing. It's not that. It's civilizations and generations of men and women who have been watching the natural cycles the same way that I will observe a 28-day cycle or a solar being, again, anyone other than a reflector, is going to observe a day-long cycle, a solar cycle, is we are here at the mercy of something greater than us, nature. That thing is allowing us to live. And living in harmony with it means that we understand the difference between our needs and our wants and our desires. And I'm just going to go out here and say this, you don't know what you want until your needs are truly being met. Now, this is simple, but it's important. Again, going back to the car, you need to put fuel in your car if you expect it to go anywhere. If you want it to just sit there and not have a function, that's fine. You don't need to put gas in your car. You don't need to put fuel in your car. With the human body is you need to put food in your body. You need to nutrify your body again if you want it to work. If you want it to work well, the need is to put in a higher quality of food. Now, when it comes to relationships and whatnot, there may be a category of needs within the realm of relationships, meaning I need something from you. But the way I see it, if I'm not giving myself and meeting my own needs, I have no ground to ask you to meet any of my needs, let alone any of my desires. And so, what I am present to right now, and I'm actually trying to decipher, is if sharing human design isms for me is a need or a desire. Now, of course, for me, I'm just going to say that it's a desire. But as I have been diving in deeper, especially with the transits, especially with being like publicly sharing my strategy and doing something for 28 days, which I haven't done, um, it's becoming more apparent to me how much of a need this really is for myself in the sense that it's not that it's as important for me to share, but it's a way for me to watch myself as I'm discovering more about each one of these gates. Now, we're in gate 33 right now, specifically the second line, which is surrender, kind of like to a more formidable force, which to me, I'm surrendering to nature today. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to sit in the river for a little bit after this and just kind of like think about everything that I've been sharing here. Um, but my desire is to have a system that that allows me to learn more about the transits because when it comes to human design, those two things that I was talking about, the strategy and authority, those are the tip of the iceberg when it comes to design. And in its full expanse, human design encompasses the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching, which is a hell of a lot of information for you to digest, especially if you are um, coming from an astrology background or have no background at all. There's 12 zodiac signs, there's 64 gates in the I Ching. So the reason why I am sharing the transits is because my design is not only to follow the moon and be aware of the lunar cycles, but also I've kind of discovered to is to actually be aware of the daily transits. And so for me, learning about uh, Gate 33, about the concept of withdrawal, and more so the feeling, like when I sit down to meditate, what is the feeling? I actually have a mantra to pinpoint that's relevant with the season. It's like if you sit down all summer and you're in a summer vibe and every time you sit down to meditate, you think about summer and you have a point of reference. For me, what the transits are and one of the best ways to use the transits is whenever you're sitting or whenever you want to engage with the transits, you do what I call the transit practice. The transit practice is really simple. You can get really specific with it, or it can just be very broad. For instance, we're in gate 33. Okay, I sit down, I feel 33, I feel where it is in my body, which it's up here in the throat, energetically speaking. Physically speaking as well, which is the Gene Keys is a really cool resource for us as we discover more about the hexagrams and what parts of the body they're related to. Side transit. 33, gate of withdrawal, of privacy, which is the two names for this gate. And I just get to see what comes up. Withdrawal, privacy. Those two words have meanings in my brain. They have meanings in your brain as well. They have meaning in society. However much I feel that pressuring me is what I'm doing my best to become aware of because maybe I'm noticing like withdrawal and then I let my mind drift a little bit and then I start thinking about, oh, what is so and so doing right now? Well, what would they think of me? And just noticing what comes to my mind in this process, in this, I'm practicing being with the transits, which again can seem really heady, but it's actually super simple. And so in I've been doing following the transits really closely, I would say for about the past year. And by really closely, admittedly, it's like I'll follow two or three transits in a row and then fall off for two or three. I would say I'm probably on the longest streak that I've been on, which is about gonna say like 2, 3 months of like really religiously following the transits as if this was my prayer. And not only do I love it, but I'm also realizing the significance of solar beings being able to practice with the transits in a way as well, which is what this whole page, Human Design Instincts, this whole brand is about. It's about the instinct available to you every single second of every day because of the transits. It's like when you're wet, you know you're wet. When the sun is shining on you, you know the sun is shining on you. And what does that feel like? It feels like warmth. Yes, it feels like sunlight. It feels like heat. It feels like energy. But what is the quality of that? In the same way that when you're wet, you know. But what is the quality of that water? Is it super clean water? Cool. Is it super dirty? That might be a little more obvious. Is it Kangen 9.5? That is even less obvious. The sun's energy, the quality of the energy that's hitting us, there's a map, or at least a lot of somebody's spent a lot of time and a lot of eyes and energy observing the natural world, and we have a map available here to us that has not only stood the test of time, but now with modern medicine, we're starting to link it to our actual gene sequence, which is what the Gene Keys is all about. It's human design and biology, and it's a convergence. The same way that human design is a convergence of astrology and I Ching. Okay, so this is what I am picking up on is that there's a convergence between solar beings, which is everybody that's not reflectors, and lunar beings, which is the reflectors. You can also chunk in a lot of projectors. If you're a projector out there watching this, there's a good chance that maybe I don't know how good, but there's a chance that either your design, your subconscious self, or your personality, your conscious self, is a reflector inherently. And that makes a part of you a lunar being. Not to say that everyone else isn't lunar beings. We're all lunar beings. We're all solar beings. It's all good vibes. And we're each designed specifically for a a thing. And nature has made it so that enough of us were born reflectors, enough of us were born generators, so that it all works. If there was another reflector born out of place, would throw the entire, if he bumped it up to 2%, he would throw everything out of balance and we may even hurtle into the sun because the weight distribution is not right. Like nature doesn't play around when it comes to law. And I am in this experiment with human design and I'm inviting others into it where I'm considering this nature's law. And so, how do I live in harmony with nature's law and allow myself ultimately to be able to live my life and receive all the blessings that nature wants to bestow upon me? That's just where I'm at with it. So, in closing, um, transits are super important and they're not as important if you don't understand your strategy. Okay, I may go into um, another round of sharing the strategies. I may go into sharing authorities. I actually haven't reached clarity on that. I still have like another day or two um, within this cycle. And my message is if you don't know your strategy, at least figure that out. Okay, at least figure that out. That's what I would do if I was someone who didn't know anything about human design. I'm coming into it, or maybe I know a bunch of stuff about a bunch of stuff, but I just want to kind of cruise with me, with Marco for a bit. This is what I would do: learn the human design strategy that you're born with and implement that relentlessly. That means ask yourself as many questions as you can in your day to day life about how well you're following your strategy. Do reflect often. And if you can't do it in day-to-day moment, do it in the beginning, waking up, and do it right before you go to sleep. If you can squeeze one in at high noon, that's great as well. But having at least one or two checkpoints where you're checking in and asking yourself, how well did I follow my human design strategy today? That's even a mouthful. How well did I follow my strategy today? Okay, great. And be honest with yourself. Because if you can't afford to pay somebody else to be honest with you, you have to rely on being honest with yourself. So be honest with yourself. How well did I follow my strategy today? Find ways to improve on that answer. Okay? And also, it may even help to, and I'm available for this. This is why I got a Calendly link. Pay someone to help you get eyes on yourself and see how well you're following your strategy. Now, there's a lot of people that you could pay that are going to run a lot of parameters like money, health, fitness, all that stuff. I really just care about strategy because if I can convince you to lock into your strategy, mm, then we can apply that to money. We can apply that to health. We can apply that to relationships, to social, to spiritual well-being, to anything. Like this is this is like this is like Reiki. It's like ground floor foundation type stuff. Strategy and authority, primarily strategy. Because if you don't have strategy, then you're not even gonna need to know what to do with your authority. Okay, so first things first. I actually have to make a recap that actually lands. So if I were you, I would figure out what my strategy is, follow it relentlessly, reflect often enough, and think about it to the point where I can get better at my strategy. And I would do that for a lunar cycle. I would do that for 28 days straight, possibly journal about it. If you send me, someone posts a story or any kind of content of them showing their journals for 28 days of how well did I follow my strategy, I will be so impressed. I'll be so impressed. I may give you something for free. Um, just because that's like, I want to work with people who want to live naturally, who want to live under nature's law and not under some man made shaboomski. The next thing that I would do is follow these transits closely. Okay, so strategy and combined with transit energy. Again, we're only really working with one transit, which is the conscious sun gate. If you go on the app or you look up what the current transits, it's where the sun is and what part of the sky that determines the gate or the flavor of energy that's hitting us. You think again, you go outside like, oh, vitamin D on my skin feels amazing. What kind of vitamin D is it? Is it withdrawal? Is it obstruction and provocation? Okay? Is it is it biting through hardship? Huh? Is it after? What is the quality of sunlight that's shining on you? That's important. And then what are you doing with that? When you walk out into the sun, how do you respond to the first light of the day? Is it something that you step outside, maybe sun's not even up yet, and it peeks through the clouds and you're like, "Oh, yes, I'm excited, I'm satisfied about life right now." Or is it like I'm frustrated that I have to go to work? Okay? Cuz in a manner of speaking, switching over to your human design could totally fuck everything up in the sense that the life that you have may not be natural to you at all. Okay? And this is where the experiment comes in. I'm not necessarily looking to work with any sane people, all right, according to society standards. I'm looking to work with people who really who really want to be living not like their maximum potential. This is not about maxing out your potential. This is about natural lifestyle. This is about nature's law. Who out there wants to live in nature's kingdom? Because that's where we actually live. Whether you live in a big city, it's not like we're living on some distant rock and grew up on the belt. You know what I'm saying? It's different. We live here on Earth. So following nature's law, that's really what this is about. And that's what instinct is. Instinct is nature's law. Needs, you got to eat. Okay? Wants, we live in a world that's so saturated with wants, nobody knows what they really need anymore. And it's my belief that this is something that I need. And as a reflector, I'm just going to prescribe it. You need it as well. Okay, so thanks for watching. Tune in later for more stuff that is related to the things that I've been talking about. You can tell I'm a reflector because I repeat everything 28 times.